Yo, what's going on, people? Izzy Max here, back again with some MDL weekly breakdown, Season 2, Week 2, with the crew. What's up, guys?
Not too much. Things are going well.
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
So, this week, 50-50 on this week. Don't really know what to think about it, so we're just going to jump in with the first game, Matt versus Burst. I honestly don't really know what to say about this match. I think, honestly, Matt had the tools to just really just go through his team, which you see here on your screen. Metagross was an issue. He did forget about the competitive on Bolton, but I don't know how big of an issue it was.
Yeah. That is, though, the second time that this has happened to Burst, because Burst forgot about Defiant on Zapdos.
Yeah.
So, like, dude, if you're gonna run Incineroar every week, you gotta know if people if it matters or not. Like against Matt's team, we've even jokingly talked about
don't ever bring Intimidate.
Never run Intimidate against the guy with Milotic, Bolton, Clear Body, and Inner Focus.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and Defiant, even on
Intimidate.
Board.
Intimidate didn't proc it. It was a max crunch from the Gyarados, I believe.
Okay, but still, it's
you just gotta be careful. Yeah, gotta be careful with that. Other than that, like I said, it was Matt's game to win. It really was. He had just better tools for the matchup.
Yeah, he really did. And he played well, too. And that's not to say Burst played poorly. It's
no, he had some good, double switches. I just think
he had some good switches.
His Mons got chipped too much.
Yeah, and his team didn't really, I feel like there's a world in which he had some really creative prep that kind of could beat this comp, but we just kind of didn't see it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Matt?
I think I think everything you guys said was pretty spot on. The way that I look at this set is more like I think as you can see here, I won both games 4-0. So I think the first game, I played well enough to have deserved to win 4-0, and I think the second game with what happened on turn 3, I think Burst probably deserved to lose 4-0, which sounds harsh, and I don't really mean it that way. It's more just I felt really good about my play game 1. The results support that, and then game 2, he did really well switching, and he did a good job of wasting my max turns the first 2 turns. It was kind of a mind game because he led Gyarados and I had already revealed Thunderbolt and Thunder Punch in game 1, so I wondered, is he trying to just bait an electric move, or is he trying to bait me into thinking he's going to switch and he's not? So it was mind games for the first 2 games, and then for the first 2 turns, and then the Max Darkness just gave Bolton the power to KO the Gyarados, and then I ended up predicting a switch and KO'd the Nidoking with the Max Quake, and it was pretty much over from there. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong. You didn't reveal that Bolton was special until the competitive boost, because all he's seen was Nuzzle, right?
He saw Thunderbolt game 1.
Oh, okay. I wasn't for sure. You did have Nuzzle on it, though, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So
yeah, he could have just been thinking, oh, it's mixed, whatever. But yeah, it was just a well-played game from you. His switching was good. He just didn't have the offense to put him in a favorable position. So moving on, next one we have Dan. 6-7. Nin did lose the Selgor to a Final Gambit, so not technically counted as a kill. But when one of your main sweepers is weak to half of your opponent's team, you're gonna expect this outcome. That's honestly the only thing I have to say about this game. And Dottler is a little weird.
Dottler was kind of weird.
But I get it.
The item choice.
I get it. If you're able to set the Palisand up and then try setting up Trick Room, sure, you could probably win. Dan's team was relatively fast, but Dan was bringing the Ludicolo religiously.
Right.
So Palossand just wasn't the play.
No, also with Dottler in particular, I just want to comment, item choice there was really strange. I mean, I know you can't slap Eviolite on it because you have Clefairy, but
What
leftovers,
was it? Oh,
it was
lefty.
leftovers,
Okay.
which is like, Dottler doesn't get any benefit from that. You're better off with probably Focus Sash, because that Mon does not have fully evolved stats at all.
And
like, it can't
yeah.
really live anything on Dan's team. Like, I think almost anything.
Mhm.
It dies to almost anything Landorus throws at it, dies to anything Coco does, just the list goes on.
And I think I brought this up when we did the preseason breakdown. The 3 Mons you see on the right for Nin all kind of want the same items.
Yes.
Granted, Focus Sash only for the Aselgor, but if you're bringing all 3 of those, you're going to be in a bad spot for items.
Yeah, that was kind of the feel, though, of the game. It was really well played by Dan. I thought his prep was really good. Nin does have a really hard team to prep for, and I think Dan prepped really well for the game. But Nin brought kind of some odd choices, and I really don't think Palossand was the play.
No.
Especially because, you get that nice defense boost from the Water Shuriken. But you look at Dan's team, and it's so specially focused. Like, all you're getting at that point is a weakness policy proc.
Right.
That is going to get outspent.
And on that same note, kudos for the Calm Mind Latias. I love that. If your Latias was faster or a way to set up Tailwind, I feel like that could have been more of an issue. But it was just too slow in the matchup.
I actually really like Calm Mind Latios. Not a lot of people have done a lot of like setup moves like that. But Latios is a really scary mon to see a Calm Mind from. So,
Matt, your thoughts?
I think Dan did it incredibly well. I think his prep and his play was spot on for what Nin was trying to do. I agree that the Dottler was a weird choice. I get that you might want to set up Trick Room for the Palossand, but I also agree that Palossand just does not have a good matchup here. It was also it was weird to see Dottler appear in game 1 when Palossand wasn't even brought. I get that maybe he wanted to set up screens, but there were just so many other things in his draft that could have filled that slot better. I do like the Latios. I feel like he actually had after the critical hit on the Ludicolo in game 1, I feel like he actually had a chance to win if he actually addressed the Tapu Koko. I actually did the calc, and +1 Light 4 max Hailstorm would have actually killed the Koko. So maybe if he didn't just zero in on the Landorus to try to hit it with an ice move that one turn, if he gone for the Koko instead, this we might be looking at a different outcome here. So it was a good choice, the Latios. Dan just had him, and some of his other choices like the Palossand and the Dottler, I think kind of shot him in the foot.
Yeah, Dan is proven to be a threat. So moving on here, next game, we have Noah and Hub. Matt, I'm gonna go ahead and let you take this one since we already talked about this pre-recording.
Sure. Yeah. So game 2 was. We'll just get game 2 out of the way first. It was just a really clean Cinderace sweep. So there's not really much to say about that. It just felt like Noah was not really prepared for Hub to switch it up and go with the Cinderace mode, and she ended up 4-0ing him in that second game. The first game was a little bit more. There was a little bit more back and forth. The end game was. It was much less clear who was going to come out on top until the very end. I think the main mistake that Noah made at the end there was not capitalizing on what I think was a misplay from Hub. When it came down to the Lycanroc and Togetic versus the Rotom and the Zapdos, there's really no way for Noah to win there if he's just launching flying attacks into the Togetic. So I think the correct play there is for Hub to just follow me safely, and she ended up going for a helping hand and Accelerock into the Rotom, which would have we saw the following turn would have actually killed without the helping hand. So anyway, Noah, I think his only way out was to capitalize on a potential misplay and go for a Max Knuckle into the Lycanroc, which he unfortunately didn't do. And if he did do that, I think he would have pretty easily taken game 1. After,
and then on Hub's side, it was a misplay. She should have definitely went for the Zapdos. In her defense, screens were up, and it was very hard to tell if just a raw Accelerock was going to kill the Rotom. But with that being said, if he would have capitalized on that, it would have went the other way.
Yeah, and given how much the Accelerock had already done to the Rotom with Reflect Up and how much it had left, it's understandable that you might be unsure of how much it's actually going to do.
Yeah, so she took a risk baiting the follow me. So.
Right. Yeah, I don't blame her for that. It's not like a huge misplay. It's not like like obviously you should have done the other thing. It's it's
we'll get to huge misplays here at the end.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't really blame her for that. Would have been Noah would have been able to win at least the first game if he had capitalized on that. But that can sometimes also be a hard win con to identify.
Yeah, Ryan.
Not a whole lot else to say. I find Lycanroc to be really interesting in a doubles format like this. It's a pretty threatening mon in reality, and I think that a lot of people's kind of sleep on that. But Banded Accelerock is off Tough Claws is just such a big hit. It's really deceptive. And as someone with a lot of priority on their team, I can tell you what, like, good priority is something that is really good in these kind of formats, and Hub has a lot of it, actually.
So I want your guys' thoughts. It worked, but it wasn't like crucial. The no item thief on the Togedemaru to get rid of the weakness policy on T-Tar.
That was just a funny tack. I liked it. It didn't end up mattering.
Well, if T-Tar would have maxed, or it would have lived, which is kind of funny.
Okay. So
yeah, that's what I was afraid. That's why I thought it was a pretty crucial move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was her thought behind it. She even explained it to me, like T-Tar was an issue. So next up, Ryan and Toxic. So go ahead, bub.
Which bub?
You, bub.
Oh, okay, I get to talk about my own game. I wasn't expecting that. Toxic played really well this set. I actually thought this was a really good game. I think it was a pretty clean set overall. I said a lot in my commentary on it that I still pretty much stand by. But Toxic played really well. I thought he had a lot of really good prep going in. He kind of knew what I was looking out for. That said, I felt pretty good about how I played that set. I always had an out every game. Definitely, RNG was a little weird. Game 1, I definitely was a little lucky, but I'd argue Game 2, I was a little unlucky, because I had like 5 turns of paralysis on Goodra and only got 1, which is statistically not great. And it was paralyzed all 3 turns of max, and I never got it. And I never got, like, I had 50% crit on Kiss, and the only crit I got was one that was already 100% KO. And I didn't get some crucial ones. So game 2, I would say I was unlucky. Game 1, I was kind of lucky. Chinchino missing a triple axle let Kiss kind of do some stuff late game. I know that he missed a Draco Meteor onto the Surfetch slot. That would have just helped differential, because I would have died to Life Orb recoil. But that Draco Meteor was max 96%. I actually had done that calc prior to the match. And I had Surfetch invested specifically to live Draco off Goodra, because Goodra I knew was a huge threat going in, and I kind of had Surfetched Close Combat as my answer.
So, I want your thoughts on this. I think Toxic teched too many things in this match.
I'm inclined to kind of agree, almost.
Like Rhydon, that's Rhydon. The only thing Rhydon's there for is the Raikou. And
Raikou was a big threat.
Well, Raikou has Scald. It can just shut down the Rhydon anyway.
Right.
Cinchino, I think, was kind of just there for the Kiss, because it's not doing anything to the Rillaboom.
Yeah.
And I think those 2 mons kind of let him down. Like, he never brought the Rhydon, but that's just an empty slot he could have been using for maybe like a Tangrowth. And then Cinchino, he brought it game 1, it got annihilated, and he's like, nah, not doing that again. So
Yeah, to his credit though, him actually not having tank growth hurt some of my move slots.
Yeah.
Because I had bird surf fetched and Kiss only ran air slash. Like I obviously max airstream was good in this matchup, but the only reason I even included air slash was to kill tank growth.
right, I mean hindsight's 50-50, but yeah.
Right, there was definitely and the Dredagon, which didn't end up coming, did have Fire Punch to wall up tank growth as well, because the calc there was good. So there was definitely a little bit of that. No, but I think this was one of Toxic's best played sets. Like,
Yeah,
genuinely,
for sure.
really well played, well prepped. He knew his wins and outs. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. I really think it was a good set, and it was a good GG.
Yeah.
I'm happy with how I played, and he should be really happy with how he played.
All right, Matt, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. This was definitely one of the best games of the week. It was. I'm actually a little bit surprised it didn't go to a game 3, given how well both of you guys played.
Yeah, I'd agree.
The fact that, yeah, I think the fact that it's only a +3 -3, even though it was a 2-game set, is a testament to how close it was and how well Toxic played, even though he lost. And you can see in the match, both games end up coming down to the wire. It's not, there was no clean sweeping. It was
it was very back
the
and
end
forth.
games for you. Yeah, the end games were pretty precarious. There were ways for you to lose.
Yeah.
But
I
you
played those sets to the end games because I knew he had that sweep potential. You even hear that throughout the video a couple times in the recording. I was playing the end games like that, and I kind of knew that was my only real way to win after seeing what he had.
Yep. But okay, so next one. I know I sent you guys the Showdown replays, but we had some internet issues, so this game had to be played on Showdown. Isn't great, but at least the game got done. I'm going to preface this by saying Game 3 was a misclick. He should have never have Dynamaxed the Moth. If he just Heat Waved, I feel like he would have been in a better spot to capitalize on the late game horse, because this was a really good set. The only thing that I think is honestly, there's not a lot to say about this game. They both played very well. You can see it ended in a 1-1. It was 3 games. Regigigas is honestly, and this is going to sound bad, as good of a Mon as it is holding him back. And I know that sounds bad because I absolutely love Regigigas, but I think it's putting, after watching his first 2 games, I think it's putting Dark in kind of a weird position where if he doesn't lead it, it just kind of sits there. And if he brings it in the back, Weezing's probably dead by the time it gets out.
Right.
And I think that kind of hurt him here as well. If you look, the Gigas had 2 deaths and no kills.
Yeah.
And the Moth just absolutely went in on everything except the horse. Granted, the 2 deaths from the horse are from the Volcarona. But yeah, I just think that the Ice Horse is a super big threat. Probably the biggest threat in the league right now.
It has 11 kills right now. It's
Yeah.
insane. That actually is something that is becoming apparent, I think, in draft. That wouldn't have been apparent initially. Is that like when you're on like Showdown ladder and just climbing and you see a random Regigigas team that you weren't prepped for, it's like, oh god, oh no. But we're in a draft setting, so if you see Regigigas Weezing, you know that's a lead. Like, it's never not a lead, because you don't have a real option to not lead with it. Or you know it is Regigigas followed by a Weezing switch-in.
Yeah.
Because Weezing has to switch in. And because of that sort of thing, you end up in kind of weird scenarios with that Mon, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah,
go ahead, Matt.
It's kind of an awkward Mon. It is definitely. I agree with Maxwell. It's kind of the kind of thing you have to either lead or leave on the bench. And it's especially awkward if you're not maxing it. I feel like Dark King has a lot of, like, he has some decent offense, but I feel like depending on how he's prepping, he may at times be pigeonholed into relying on Regigigas for his offense. And the problems with that is that it's something that I think everybody is going to prep pretty hard for. And of course, Regigigas itself also relies on wheezing, so that can be that can be a little bit awkward. You can't do anything else next to it, and wheezing, how much is it really doing?
They got 2
so
kills.
Yeah, right. I guess so. It's not completely useless. I don't mean to say that. It gets some good tech moves, some
so
taunt, clear
yeah.
smoke,
At the end of game 3, to tell you how underwhelming undynamaxed Regigigas is, a Fire Silvally lived on 20% from a high horsepower.
Yeah,
And
that's
this was
not a good
this was a non-slow
that's
start.
rough.
Non-slow start Regigigas. If he would have killed the Silvally,
Are we
Dark King might have won. Because I think it was next to like a burned Glacier. But
Are
yeah.
we talking life orb Reggie?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess that makes some sense. Silvally is pretty bulky, so.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
uninvested, it doesn't. It lives a hit uninvested
you
pretty
want
much.
that.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's kind of how underwhelming it is if you're not maxing it, but
Right, you do want to max it.
yeah, overall, I mean, like I said, it was a good game. It was well played by both. Game 2, Dark 4-0 swept him, and then
Yeah,
Game 3
which
came
is
around.
like crazy.
Yeah, and then Hunter's like, nah, not gonna happen again, and definitely played his outs. Granted, I think Dark King misclicked the Dynamax button, because Showdown is a little wonky when you're trying to not Dynamax.
Yeah, it can be, especially if you're trying to Dynamax that second mon.
Yeah.
I actually, when I play on Showdown, I make sure that my Dynamax mon that I want to Dynamax is on the left side usually,
Oh,
just to avoid that kind of thing.
gotcha.
And that's even something that bleeds over into when I play, like, just in general, because I don't like accidentally Dynamaxing the wrong mon.
See, yeah, that's funny. But no, like I said, good game from both guys. I'll save my last comment for this last game. So, me and Tay, you guys go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of tossed game 3 a little, Maxwell, not gonna lie.
I did.
Game 3 you kind of tossed. You didn't target correctly.
No.
And you really needed to ice punch some stuff. And Tay played the set really well. I actually thought he did a really nice job. One of the big things, though, is that this game had, like you losing is not a huge deal, but, like, you definitely had a little bit of RNG not go in your favor. You missed a hydro pump, which, like, happens to the best of us.
The
but
only
Tay also,
hydro pump.
But Tay also landed 5 hurricanes.
Didn't
and he
miss a
needed to
single
land-
one. Yep.
And he needed to land all 5 to win. Like, if he had missed one, that would have been game on the spot.
Mhm.
Which statistically isn't too crazy, but it is a little bit of bad RNG. But honestly, I feel like if you had played your game 3 better, you would have won despite the RNG. Like, RNG is one of those things where you can mitigate it with good play, and I think you could have mitigated that RNG with good play.
Oh, I fully
and-
fully agree with you. Yeah,
And I also think Tay played this set really well.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to see him win it. He played really well. Zapdos was definitely the bring here. Mr. Rhyme is doing a lot for him.
Yes.
Like, a lot.
yes. So here's my thought real quick. I misplayed. I will 100%. I know I misplayed. As soon as the game was over, I was like, well, that was stupid. I was afraid of Trick Room. I really was. And I didn't know Bronzong didn't have Trick Room on it, and that's why I Gmax 1 blowed it the first turn. And then I seen the weakness policy, and I just kind of freaked out. I was like, oh, shoot, this is actually an offensive Bronzong. I got to kill it. That was not the play. No, the play was to kill the Zapdos. And
Yeah, because
that was
threat for everything you had in the back.
Yep, it was a big mistake, and I definitely know.
Yeah, no, it was a good set. Zapdos is a good bring here. I was really impressed with Mr. Mime. I like Bronzong. Tay's been bringing Bronzong really well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a tricky mon to use sometimes, I think. It's got kind of some weird stat spreads, and whenever you do calcs with it, like, sometimes they're really good and sometimes they're really bad, so you have to kind of weigh the positives and negatives of that mon, I think, in a given week. So I think that was good. I really like your Frostmoth bring here.
Yo, Frostmoth has been putting in the finest, and I'm surprised.
Yeah, actually, it's really funny. I think the past like couple games we've seen some low tier mons put in like really good work consistently for people's teams. So that's kind of my thoughts on the set. Matt, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I just love seeing Frostmoth do well. I think it was one of the coolest Pokemon introduced in this generation. I was kind of sad that it turned out to not be that great. So seeing it put in work here is really fun. I think you guys pretty much touched on all of the key points of this match. One quick thing, given that Tay was leading Mr. Rhyme into your Blastoise and DD lead, I'm a little bit sad it didn't have Expanding Force. I was kind of hoping to see that come out because I think that would be a really cool tech, especially for that particular lead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I was surprised
okay.
he didn't. I was surprised he didn't have Freeze Dry.
He had Dazzling Gleam, which I thought was interesting. Yeah,
and I
Freeze Dry
switched
is
right
actually-
into it. Yeah.
Yeah, Freeze Dry is actually a really good tech move on Mr. Rhyme.
Yeah.
Because it's got good stats. I mean, yeah, Ice Psychic typing gives you a lot of weaknesses, but it's like actually pretty potent offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually has a phenomenal pool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
true.
Yeah. Any last thoughts before we move into transactions?
I think that's it. This was an odd
Yeah,
week.
good.
Most of the pick'ems were on this week, by the way.
I think this
most
was
of
the
the-
only one that was wrong.
This one, there was one other.
Oh, and then
that could have been.
the dart game. So the two close games were the ones that the league got wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, moving into transactions. First transaction, we are starting to gain a little bit more. People are starting to figure out their weaknesses. We have Ryan dropping Seismitoad for Vaporeon. I think you just upgraded support water types. Seismitoad, I know for you, wasn't getting calcs.
Yup,
So
ever.
go more supportive, yeah.
I hated it. If you want Seismitoad, take it, but be prepared for some disappointment. Life Orb Seismitoad was not doing it.
Yeah, Matt, you want this next one?
Sure. Yeah. I think I know you guys aren't really crazy about this, but I do sort of like it, even though Togepi is, probably the most trash follow me user in the format. Cinccino, I don't really know how much it was doing for him. I think it's actually a good Pokemon for its tier, but it doesn't really seem essential. I think Togepi actually gives Toxic some more options here, and it makes him way less weak to
Safety
Safety
goggles.
goggles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, I ran Safety Goggles physical heat ran against him, so if that's anything.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's when you're running Togepi, you have to know that unless Eviolite is hitting some strange calcs, you basically just have to run a Focus Sash on it. It follow me's and probably just dies in one turn.
Mhm.
So
that's enough
something
time.
you gotta know.
That's enough time to get a nasty plot off.
It is, yeah. So which is why I think that this might actually work for him. I think he had Togepi last season. Is that
Yep.
am I?
Yeah,
remember
I think
that
it was
correct?
like the last 4 or 5 games last season.
Yeah, he never brought it though.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. I was just thinking. I don't think he ever brought it. So maybe he thought about it in prep and it just didn't work out, or in which case I'm not sure why he's wanting to pick it up now. But we'll see. I'm curious to see how often he actually brings it.
So the
Yeah.
reason I don't like this trade is because I'm worried about the future, because I know in the Discord chat he's actually talking about dropping Tangrowth, and honestly, this is my opinion, I think that's the wrong move. Tangrowth offers
Tangrowth is so good.
Tangrowth offers more than just Rage Powder.
Yeah, Tangrowth is an insanely good mon. When I was prepping for him, Tangrowth gave. I had to tech so many tech moves on my team to beat Tangrowth
Mhm.
because it was that big of a threat. Like, it's a really, really good mon.
Yeah.
And that said, too, Cinccino actually helps his speed tiers out a bit because Cinccino's really fast.
His team
I
definitely
remember-
does slow down a little bit.
I had to do some calcs to make sure that I could get some stuff on Chichino. Chichino has a couple issues though. It's really weak to priority. I actually in the calc it's like 85% chance to one-hit KO with Grassy Glide off Rillaboom, which obviously that's like an exceptionally strong priority move, but still it's like more likely to KO than not. It's really frail. So you're only likely to get 1 or 2 good hits off, but like those hits can like hurt like real bad. So
yeah,
that is kind of what I think of that. I think that it's not a bad trade per se, but I don't love it overall, just because I really think Chinchino actually did have more to offer him.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Ryan, you want to do mine?
Yeah, Flygon has what I would call the Seismitoad problem, where it doesn't get calcs ever. And I even said that on the first video we did.
Yep.
You said Flygon's not getting calcs already, and I was like, yeah, it's a mon that doesn't get calcs. And you kind of went the same route I did. You went, all right, well, let's get a bulky support mon with better offensive stats, and that's what you did. So you have Hippowdon now. I like Hippowdon in general as a mon. I think it's a really good mon. You don't have anything to abuse sand with it yet, but you could like maybe grab something at some point.
Bro, I have Colossal.
I mean, Colossal, kinda. But,
I mean, it's a special defense boost.
Yeah, it is. Hippowdon is a pretty solid mon overall. It's got some good stats. It hits pretty, like, decent. It's one of those mons that can just kind of sit there, though.
Oh.
It definitely can just, like, have all my friends are dead syndrome. Where it's like, oh, everything died around Hippowdon because it didn't have the moves to hit anything. But it's a solid mon, and I really like it, so I'm glad to see you picking it up.
Yeah.
And it helps your Trick Room mode a little bit, too.
Oh, big facts. Now, we finally have something on Matt's team that we can intimidate.
Yay, it's the first mon we can intimidate. Barrascuda,
oh
God
my
bless.
God.
Barrascuda,
Yeah, I guess so. Well,
you want to talk about your
You can
trade, Matt?
intimidate Starina. I will a little bit. Yeah, I just to piggyback off of the last one, I think that Hippowdon for Flygon is a fantastic trade. So, kudos on that. I'm actually surprised that they are in the same tier. I didn't realize that before. So, yes. Yeah. But this trade was for anyone following these videos, you'll probably remember that I'm not super happy with the way that my draft panned out, and I'm having to sort of reconstruct it. This is by no means my last trade. It's a process. This is just the next step in that process. I felt that I just needed I suppose a more offensive water type. My Milotic is just not I tried prepping with it a couple of times. I did bring it in team preview at least the last game, but it's just not doing what I want my water type to do. Its move pool is very shallow. I think that I have some plans for Barrascuda, but they're not exactly fleshed out yet. But I think it's at least better than my Milotic, that's for sure.
I will agree. Yes.
Yeah, well, your team needed more offense too, I think.
Yeah, and like the going rate with your team, no one should be bringing Intimidate against you. So, it makes sense. Yeah, so next up, this is the weirdest one, but as we talked about it more, it makes more sense. Dropping Quagsire for Carbink on Hunter. I've noticed in his past couple games that Dusclops just kind of gets taunted, and it just sits there, and he doesn't get his Trick Room up. Granted, he is always running Eviolite, but the Carbink gives him a way to kind of not be taunted because it can run the Mental Herb, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it can run that item and actually set Trick Room for you. Granted, I don't know if it's actually more bulky, but I mean, it's definitely a different Trick Room option if you're afraid of taunt.
Yeah. Yeah, more or less. And typing is weird. Carbink is one of those mons that is weak to a lot of things, but also can resist like really big hitters. But yeah, it's Carbink. It's just kind of an odd mon. I think it's good on this comp. It gives him a little bit more type coverage. Gives him a nice dragon switch in, which he actually really didn't have prior.
No.
So there's some benefit to it. I just don't think it's incredible.
Yeah, Matt, any
But
thoughts on this?
Quagmire's
Yeah, I
not
don't-
incredible either. So,
No.
and I love my
Yeah.
boy that hits his head on rocks, but he's not that good.
Yeah, I wouldn't really see either of these Pokemon coming very often. For Carbink, I mean, the only thing I remember Carbink being good for is like guard swap stuff with Chansey. I don't know if he's really going to be needing any of that kind of stuff, but it's I can see him using it as maybe a little bit more as more of a reliable trick room setter, I suppose. But I'm not really convinced that it's going to be able to do a whole lot after that. I think maybe it gets ally switch so he can cheese something out with that, but I don't really expect to see it very much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like Ryan said, I think it's a better mon than Quagsire, but yeah, it's just definitely going to be one of those techie type of mons. Matt, do you want to do the last one?
Sure. Yeah. I know you guys kind of like this one. I don't really. I think that dropping Araquanid really significantly damages Stan's Trick Room mode. He kind of has to rely on Guzzlord now, which is a little awkward. I think Guzzlord is a lot better than people give it credit for. I'm surprised it's in tier 4. It is an Ultra Beast, even though it's 4 times weak to Fairy and its stats are a little bit weird. But I think Araquanid was doing a lot on his team, even though he did have kind of an excess of water types. But I think it makes sense given that that's what he was building his team for. If Politoed can support either a fast offensive raid mode with Ludicolo or a bulky offensive trick room mode with Araquanid. I actually kind of liked that it could do both of those things. And Dusknoir, I don't really see it doing much. It's not just a discount Dusclops. It's a little bit more offensive. It has decent type coverage. I don't think it's not super offensive though, and but I hope he uses it and proves me wrong and does more with it than I think it can do.
I think you're sleeping on Dusknoir. Dusknoir is a really solid mon, I think. I like this trade a lot. It's giving him a little bit more type coverage with having a ghost type. Dusknoir got pretty significantly buffed in Gen 8. I actually advocated for it to be in its current tier because if I recall, one of two of you wanted it in T5 and I was like, no. It's got Poltergeist now, which is a huge buff for it. It hits really hard with Max Phantasm. It's got a good special attack, good Trick Room setter. It gets all the good support moves that Dusclops gets, just without the bulk, so it's even a decent supportive mon. It's got some really nice offensive coverage moves. It's a good Dynamax option under Trick Room, and I think it gives him some I think Dan's team actually needed a little bit more versatility in some of those departments, and I actually think Dusknoir really provides that. So I actually really like this trade. I think Araquanid's a really good mon. If you're looking to pick up I think of the mons on this list, if you had to pick one up, I'd definitely look at Araquanid first.
For sure.
But it's a pretty good. I think it's a pretty good trade. I really have no misgivings about it. I think it's just a pure upgrade.
So here's the reason. Oh, go ahead, Matt. You had something.
Yeah, just real quick. I don't think that Dusknoir is bad here. I'm just skeptical about Araquanid being the mon that he gives up for it.
Yes. Okay, so that kind of goes into my point. His Trick Room option is weak to dark. Araquanid shut that down. He has Musharna and Dusknoir. I don't have the rest of his comp on hand. I don't know if he really has any other Trick Room-esque options.
Yes, he does. That isn't weak to dark. Gallade.
Gallade's still kind of quick though.
Oh no, Gallade's quick, but it can set trick.
Oh no. I'm talking if his Trick Room his Trick Room setter and his sweeper. His main setter and his sweeper are both weak to dark. Araquanid was not, and Araquanid hit the dark types for super effective. That's my main complaint with this trade.
I think that's fair. I do actually, though, would like to comment. Good offensive dark types are very short in supply.
Yes,
Um,
for sure.
like there's actually not very many. A lot of mods get dark
Urshifu.
type coverage. Yeah, it's like Urshifu, Zora Arc, Moltres, and that's like it. In terms of like good top tier ones. So
And I think he only plays one of those.
yeah, so I really don't. You're not getting a lot of stab dark moves coming your way with that kind of a mon. You're getting a lot of coverage moves, which like are still dangerous. Don't get me wrong, but with natural bulk on Dust Noir and Musharna, I think they live the hit off just like a non-stab move, you know, most of the time.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's as big of an issue, but it definitely is something worth bringing up.
Yep. So, any last minute thoughts from you guys, and then I'll talk about what we're doing next week. Next week's a fun week.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. This was a pretty good week. Definitely weird games. This was kind of one of the weirdest weeks that the Max Doubles League has had in a
For sure.
long time.
For sure.
But that's okay. You get some weird weeks every once in a while. I think next week, based on the matchups and things that we're seeing for next week, I think it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah, so next week's breakdown will not be a breakdown. It will be a power ranking. We will not be breaking down match by match. We will, of course, talk about them, but only like 2 minutes per match. And we will break down kind of what teams are doing, how they rank up based on where they initially ranked. We'll have transactions, of course, but the bulk of the recording for next week will be going down, breaking down the divisions, playoff standings currently, power rankings currently, mishaps, misfortunes, good brings, bad brings, the whole 9 yards. Expect next week's video to be a little bit longer. One quick thing, Red Division is tough.
Oh my god.
If Dark would have beat Hunter, the entirety of the Red Division would be 1-1.
Yeah.
So,
which is nutty. One quick side note too, just as a heads up for the week 3 breakdown, because we're doing power rankings. Last season we did power rankings every 3 weeks like this, and the first 3 weeks is the hardest one.
Yep.
By a huge margin. And we have to do math for it, and that's like really not fun. But we have to do math for it in order to kind of make sure it's fair. Like a good example, like I'm just going to use my own schedule because I know it pretty well. I played Maxwell and lost in a close game, close set. I lost to Maxwell, but he's ranked above me, so I should theoretically lose that game. And then I beat Toxic, who's ranked like 1 or 2 below me, so I'm supposed to win that game.
Yeah, and on that same note,
the differences between that sort of thing will actually really determine those early rankings. So they're not like going to be super indicative of the overall season. It'll just be like where things are currently at.
Yeah, and on that same note, since we do have numbers from the initial rankings, like me losing to Tay, the difference between me and Tay was a 0.1.
Right.
And we ended the game at 0-0. So, a lot of that stuff will be in play when we talk about them. There's definitely some changes and some shifting that will be happening. Some big shifting. Oh, yeah,
for sure.
Hunter is one of those that will be shifting big. So just be prepared for that for next week. And yeah, I'm done. So without further ado, peace.